Hey guys, today I'm bringing you another video. I was asked by a few people if I could speak a little bit about the stats and the itemization of the Soul Link PvP Warlock, and I decided to do just that today. Starting off, I want to talk about spell hit chance. I'm currently running 2%. Ideally, you want to go for 3%. That's the cap versus PvP targets. The reason I'm running 2% is because I decide to use the 3 set bonus, which gives me the chance for additional 40 spell damage. If I were to run a real tournament or a very important duel, I'd be running 3%. Next most important is spell penetration. It really only applies to one item, and that is this trinket. But what it does is it reduces the spell resistances of your opponents, therefore making your own spells have a higher chance to actually land and not to be resisted. The next most important stat is spell power or shadow damage. Now, you might ask yourself, okay, we're talking Soul Link spec. This means we're supposed to be tanky. Shouldn't stamina be more important? I'm telling you, no. And the reason for that is very simply explained. Obviously, you want to survive any initial burst that you'll face, which you're definitely going to do if you have about 2k HP and you have the Soul Link up. But then, really, you want to be out sustaining the opponent. Now, what I mean by that is all of your damage that you're taking is reduced by 30%. So you're only taking 70% of damage incoming. But at the same time, you're healing a lot through Haunt and Drain Life. So your effective HP is going to be way, way higher than 2k anyway. It's going to be triple that, basically. So the more you can push your healing, the higher your effective HP is going to become. And that's why I'm always explaining to many guys that don't understand this. Spell power and shadow damage is the best on a tanky Warlock. So that's what you really want to be going for. After that, yes, stamina is the second most important, and stamina might even be the first most important as long as you don't have a certain health pool. Now, the third and fourth best stat would be armor and int. Armor really providing some additional survivability against melee classes or physical DPS, which is nice to have, but not really needed as we're already pretty tanky. And last but not least, intellect. Really, it's just nice comfort of life to have a bit higher mana pool, but you don't need that much int on a Prebis gear. So I made my way over to the auction house, which is one of your favorite houses as a Warlock, because you can get plenty of your Prebis gear here, actually. And I want to start discussing about the item slots. So on the head slot, you want to be going for the tailoring epic. It's by far the best. The on use is crazy. The stats it has are very good. Go for this one. If you don't have it yet, you could be going for a Helm of Shadow Wrath, for example, one of these. There are also some budget-friendly options, which will be just fine. For the necklace, you want the piston pendant of the Gnomeregan raid. If you don't have it yet, you can go for the Ghost Shard Talisman from the Scarlet Monastery. One could argue this is better because it has more stamina, but then again, I value the spell damage higher, and this one also has an int, which is a little icing on the cake. So I would rather go for this one, for the piston pendant. For your shoulders, the best are the synthetic mantle. They're from the raid. They are very good, very high stats overall, a little bit of extra armor, which is also nice. But if you don't have those yet because they haven't dropped, then same as helmet, you just go for the of Shadow Wrath ones here in the auction house. Now these ones are a bit expensive, but you can buy them cheaper. You could go for the 14 shadow damage now. Sometimes you have 17s around 5G as well, so you can get them for decent value. For the cloak, I'll be running the Bloodrot Cloak. In my opinion, it's the best one. You can get this from the Stranglethorn Veil PvP event. It has really good stats, and it's very easy to get. I think you just need to join for one PvP event. Otherwise, you could be going for the Silky Spider Cape from the Razorfen Downs, but I personally prefer the additional spell damage of the Bloodrot Cloak. For the chest piece, now as you can see, I will be talking about the set now. I'm running the full set, the 3 of 3, let's say, tanky Warlock spec from Gnomeregan, which in my opinion is BIS. However, the difference between the pre-BIS versus this is actually not that big. So the alternative chest to this one is actually the Robes of the Lich. And as you can see from the stats, you would be gaining 10 stamina. You would be losing only 6 spell damage. Okay, and you lose 11 int and some armor. So it is a bit worse, but the Robes of the Lich are actually pretty decent. They're not bad at all. While talking about the set, we go to the pants next. Here, the Prebis option is the Shadow Weave pants, which are actually compared one by one. I would actually rather use the Shadow Weave because it has 8 more damage, and you're just missing out on 3 stamina and 12 int. At this trade, I would always go for the Shadow Weave, but we like the set because it has hit rating, it has armor, and it has a nice proc. So actually, I'm running the set, but it's very close. For the boots, the next best option are the tailoring boots. Actually, one could argue I should be using them now because with these boots, I would have 3% hit rating. And actually, the on-use effect, taking 30% less damage, is very, very good as well, especially if you're already in a fight with an opponent and you're just needing to tank a little bit, then you just press it and it's very, very good. Stat-wise, they're very close. But as I was saying, the entire set that I'm running versus these 3 options, I calculated what the difference is. Actually, you lose 3 stamina. You have the same amount of spell damage with these previous options. The only thing the set offers you is an additional 30 int, the 200 armor, and the proc, which obviously in some makes it a bit better, but it's a really close one. Next, I want to talk about bracers. You want to go here for the Warsong Exalted Bracers. They're by far the best you can get. Your number 2 option would be either the PvP rank 5 blue bracers, which you can get, or again, you just go to the auction house, look for sort by level, go for Shadow Wrath, and you go for these 14 shadow damage. Okay, you can go for these. No, 7 is a bit low. Okay, you should go for 14, 13, 12 here. Maybe they're cheaper on your server. You need to check. But this would be the third best option, or the second best, depending on how much your total HP value is versus the PvP ones. Now, as gloves, I just got these Fighter Ace gloves today, which I'm very pleased with. They are the best in my opinion, even though you do lose a little bit of damage compared to your Dreamweave gloves, which I've been using just until today. The Dreamweave gloves are pretty cheap now. You can get them in the auction house. Fighter Ace is a bit better. I just prefer to have 6 stamina, 6 intellect, 70 armor versus this 9 spell damage. This is a trade-off I think that's worth taking. And next I want to talk about the belt. I'm using the engineer one. Better than that would actually just be the Gnomergan one. And why is that better? Well, basically because of the spell damage. If you compare the two, they both have 1% hit. The engineer one has a crit, which is really not needed at all due to the fact that we're mostly dotting. And then, okay, it has 9 stamina versus only 6 here. But we gain more armor, and the most important, we have the 12 spell damage, which is really nice. Now, the third best option for your belt is going to be the Arati Basin one, the Defiler one. The stats are really nice on this, but the issue is you're going to be missing hit, as it doesn't have hit as the other two have, and therefore it's only 3rd place. Next up is your ring slots. You know I have both Underworld bands, and I would argue that they are BIS for the spec. A lot of guys are talking about the fact that they cost so much and they're so expensive. Listen, if you're running 5 different characters, or you're someone who only has an hour a day to play this game, I agree, the Underworld bands are probably out of reach for you. But if you're like me, you're only playing one single character, you play several hours a day, then you might just go and farm a little bit. And I personally find it very, very rewarding that in this game you're able to just run around in the world and actually farm your own items. To me, this feels much more rewarding than going to Gnomergan and then winning by some random roll and random drop. I prefer to just go out, kill some mobs, collect gold, and after a certain amount of days or weeks, you have enough to get the item you want, which is a big upgrade. Now, there is a far cheaper option, which is just as good as the Underworld band, and that is the Stranglethorn Veil Epic, this one. Since we're not using the Trinket in this PvP specs, we can use this, and it's just as good. I mean, you're missing 2 stamina, but you're gaining 8 intellect. This is a fair trade you can take, and it's, of course, cheap because it's free. So you can definitely go for that one as well. And your third best ring will be this one, which is the one from Honored Warsong faction. It's also nice. It has stamina, it has spell damage, exactly what you need. Now, regarding trinkets, I already spoke about the spell pen when I spoke about the stats. This is really the reason why you take this. I mean, on top of that, it gives you some additional stamina, which is also nice to have. This is the best trinket there is. Same goes for the Greater Insignia. You really need it. You get out of stuns with this. You get out of any CC with this. It's the best trinket there is for you. And there's nothing comes close. And this is very easy to get. You only need Friendly Warsong for the rune. You need rank 5 for the PvP trinket, which also should be possible to get. Now, talking about weapons and offhands, the best weapon obviously is the Glimmering Gizmo Blade of Gnomrigan. I was very lucky to get this last ID, so I already have it. Next best option would be the Dagger of Willing Sacrifice from BFD. I had this just until now. Here it is. It's also very nice, all-round stats. Now, if you don't have any of these, again, you could be going for a Dagger of Shadow Wrath. It's only 11 damage then, but this could be an option. I mean, you could get them very cheap. Or you just go for a two-hand weapon, which would be something also of Shadow Wrath. For example, this one for 8 gold, you get 26 shadow damage. It's not as good as the BFD Epic Staff, but really this additional int on the BFD Staff is not really that important at all. So yeah, and this is way easier to get. Now, if you're running with either the Dagger of Willing Sacrifice or the Gizmo Blade or the Dagger of Shadow Wrath, you need an offhand. In my opinion, the Umbral Crystal is by far the best. If you don't have that yet, you could also be running just the Orb of the Forgotten Seer, which drops in Scarlet Monastery, or you could go to the auction house once more and look for a Shadow Wrath offhand, right, with 14 shadow damage. Here you go. And also, as a classic player, you should never forget about the utility items, such as the Skull of Impending Doom. You get this from a quest chain in Badlands. It increases your run speed by 60% in 10 seconds, which can really change the outcome of a world PvP scenario or some BG scenarios. However, I don't recommend this item to be used in 1v1 scenarios, as you do lose a lot of health for this run speed, and yeah, therefore it's kind of a niche usage in my opinion. Coming last but not least to the wand, I would go for the Mechanical Strider Gear Shifter from Gnomrigan. It's the best, it has the highest DPS and 9 spell damage. Next best option could be if you go for a Shadow Wrath one once more from the auction house. For example, this one here. Okay, it's a bit expensive. You could go with the 7, but before you go with the 7 shadow damage, probably your best would be to just go again to Scarlet Monastery. If you're going there anyway to farm the rares to get the Ghost Shard Talisman, you could get the Necrotic Wand, which yeah, is basically your next best option. So I decided to show you guys how it could look like with your own character if you're running just Prebis without raid items. And actually, besides the fact that I think I look kind of cool, you'll notice my stats now. I still got 2k HP, 239 spell power, 238. So really the only things I'm lacking here are, for one, I'm missing about 1000 mana. And for two, I have a little bit of struggles with the armor. Now my gear here is mainly greens and previous stuff that I mentioned in the video. I'll show it to you real quick. And what this shows you is that also without any raid luck, you can still get some decent stats on your character. And you can make Soul Link Warlock work with such a setup. I mean, as I said, you should be aiming for 2k stamina and pump everything else in spell power. Once you're buffed and in BGs, you'll have even more HP anyways. That's about it for this video. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Feel free to leave any comments if you have some questions. I'll be happy to answer them for you in the comment section. Have a very nice day, and thanks for tuning in.